Theme parks. You're here because you like them. Because listen, I know I'm funny, I also know I'm not that funny. I'll quickly mention these are pretty much the only 10 I've been to so far, aside from Disney World, which I just went to way too long ago to rank properly. So, I've got no script, a beer in hand, let's just get into it. At number 10 we've got Niagara Amusement Park. The only reason to come here is Silver Comet. Listen, this is a park I'm glad it's open. It was abandoned for a couple years early in the decade before Gene Staples saved it. Silver Comet's a good coaster, they just added another one in. It's just so scrapped together. Again, glad it's open, it's not worth more than a couple hours. Things don't get a hell of a lot better for the Buffalo region because next up is Darien Lake. This is another park that kind of feels scrapped together, which I can more or less blame on scrappy ownership. Ride of Steel's a decent standout, but it's not good enough to carry it any higher. Tantrum and Viper are decent supporting coasters. Nice setting, I like how it's in the middle of nowhere. Lot of greenery. There's also a lot of oddly industrial feel to it, if that makes sense. Like the pathways especially are super ugly. It's good place to spend a few hours. I'll also go out and say that it's probably the last park on this list, not worth the full day, but I hope to get back this year and change that. Next up, and don't get mad at me for this one, it's Busch Gardens Tampa. When I went, I just had a really bad experience. SheiKra and Gwazi were down all day, Montu broke down when I was in line, and I spent way too long waiting for that Rapids ride when Kumba was roaring right there. I like what I rode, but otherwise, I just did not have a good day. It happens. And unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to go back yet, but this park is gonna go up as soon as I get back. It's that easy. I'll also admit, when I went, it was my first time making a park visit in like 5 years, so of course it went poorly. Do your research before you go. Number 7 is Carowinds, or more particularly Carowinds Winterfest. I went in December, it was awesome, but I only went for Fury, and that's the only thing I did. So take this ranking as Fury and not the full park experience. When I get back, the lineup does look really good, especially Intimidator and Afterburn. I also got on Copperhead, which is a top 25 coaster. It looks very similar to Wonderland, and being on the state line is super cool. Quite frankly, I have no complaints. I had a great time here, and I'm really excited to get back and experience the full lineup. Next up is Holiday World. Now to be blunt, the top 2 here for coasters is the best top 2 I've experienced. Voyage and Legend rank 1 and 4 respectively. Voyage is just perfect and complete, and Legend is the lateral king. Meanwhile, Raven and Thunderbird supplement it well. Outside of that, there's not much to love about this park. It's nice, but there are nicer parks out there. Theming is kind of sporadic. The Americana classic theme park isn't really pulled off as well as Kennywood or Waldameer. I'll get to those two later. And most importantly, this place cannot handle crowds. Don't get me wrong, I'm going back in May, June. When I get back, I'll love it a hell of a lot more because there will be a lot less people. But as for now, I can't get the images of those ugly bathrooms out of my head, or the lack of coasters to keep lines short. I like this place, again, still worth a full day, maybe even 2. But as of now, I can't put it any higher. Next up is my home park, Canada's Wonderland. Let me specify, if I could pick any coaster on this list to be my home park, it would probably be Wonderland. It's the perfect balance of being good, but not too good so that you ruin it by going so much. The coaster lineup, super solid, but a little top heavy. Mindbuster's gonna be great with its renovation, Behemoth, Leviathan are a great 1-2 punch as of now, Yukon Striker and Vortex are both excellent supporting coasters, and of course Alpenfury looks like it could be the best coaster in the park. Aside from that, you've got a lot of great flat rides, good looking scenery, and of course, that mountain centerpiece. What I don't like about this place, Operations are very inconsistent, and from my experience, usually on the weaker side. Dispatches can be brutal, although they are always running 3 trains to their credit. More than anything else though, my proximity to the park, about a 20-minute drive, is both a strength and a weakness in that I'm able to go there all the time and it's awesome, but it just no longer feels that special. Quick shout out to the food options, which aren't great, but they are working very hard to improve. I will give them a lot of credit for that. Number 4 is Kennywood. Few things about Kennywood jump off the page. 1, I'm hugely biased towards Pittsburgh, something you can blame on my lifelong Steeler fandom. 2, I went there when it was dead, and it was glorious. Steel Curtain was closed, and you know what? It didn't matter. It was awesome. Back to the atmosphere. The atmosphere here is that perfect Americana theme park feel. Only a few places can pull it off, and this is one of them. Also, Phantom's Revenge is a serious standout coaster. Skyrocket and, yes, Exterminator are decent supporting ones, while the 3 Woodies all have their classic charm. You also get this beautiful view of the river throughout the entire park. It's a very good looking park for that reason alone. Few places, if any, feel the way this park does. Number 3 is Waldameer. This park in Erie. I love this place. You know how I was mentioning that Americana theme park feeling? This is the one place aside from Kennywood that nails it as well. If you've got a couple nifty dark rides, some awesome flats, that drop tower is awesome by the way. And this park is really good at straddling that line between fairground and real amusement park. It feels so scrapped together in the best way. 2 things really tune it together though. First things first, you've got that view of Lake Erie. You're right next to a state park, you jump over a highway on one of the rides, the free admission is really cool too, and the sunsets over Lake Erie really sew it all together. I'm not kidding when I say it is maybe my favorite spot to get a sunset view. Also, you can't mention the park without mentioning Ravine Flyer 2. Ravine Flyer 2 is easily a top 5 coaster for me right now. Absolutely marvelous. As much as the last 4 or 5 spots have all been generally close, the last 2 are not. Second place goes to Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. Also, coincidentally, on Lake Erie. If you're looking at it from the park perspective, it is pretty much carried by one thing and one thing alone. The coasters. Magnum, Raptor, Millennium Force, Steel Vengeance, Maverick. This is a level of stacked that the 70s Steelers hope to match one day. And beyond that, you've also got Top Thrill 2 and Siren's Curse both hopefully opening this year. The food at the park is also pretty good. We had some really good burrito bowls when we went. The park does have some flaws though. Mainly, there's really only one area that has any coherent theming, and that's Frontier Town. The rest of the park, despite the nice peninsula setting, kind of just looks plain. Operations are also just okay, and really could be better. Other than that, there's so much more to love about the park than to dislike it, so Cedar Point slots in at number 2. And the number 1 spot, surprise surprise, goes to Kings Island in Mason, Ohio. This park just nails absolutely everything. My one teeny tiny knock on it is that they're probably missing that one truly elite coaster, but they come close 5 times anyways. Orion and Beast are super solid, while Banshee, Mystic, and Diamondback always vouch for that number 1 spot in my head. I really overthink this kind of stuff. Aside from that, you got some nice depth coasters like Adventure Express and Flight of Fear, and some decent flat rides. I'm a big fan of the drop tower specifically for the view. Going a little further, the food here is really good. When I went, I ate an excellent burrito, and I'm still craving it. Atmosphere is unparalleled. I went during Haunt, and they absolutely flood the place. It looks like a 90s bar with the amount of smoke. absolutely incredible, and it really makes those night rides a hell of a lot better. Two things really serve as a cherry on top. One is the setting of the park. You're more or less in the middle of a forest, so it feels immersive. It also really highlights the little bit of theming they do have, and they do a great job with rides like Orion, Flight of Fear, Mystic Timbers. Definitely great for a Cedar Fair park. And of course, this place just kills it with their operations. I really don't recall them stacking a lot of trains. It was really fun to see, especially considering that's all I saw at Behemoth all year. It's night and day compared to Cedar Point and Wonderland. You can tell the employees here really care, and they do a great job. It feels like a park tailor-made for the roller coaster enthusiast. And because of that, it is impossible not to put it at my #1 park. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like and subscribe. If you did not, feel free to leave a hateful comment.